My name is Cory. I'm with Capital Construction Solutions. We're a Chicago-based company. We're out of 1871, a tech incubator at the Merchandise Mart. Been around for 2 years, 1 year at the Merchandise Mart. I got a couple guys here, Mark, Chris, Matt's here. So we build a knowledge transfer. It's very similar to some things you might have heard, but in some ways very, very different than what you've seen. So we are solving 30 friction points in construction, things that don't go well, people don't do well, project closeout. Is that me? Okay. Project closeout, how you manage a schedule, how you manage safety first, so that's what we're talking about today. Closeout, all these things, there's some that are hidden because they're secretive, but you generally get the idea. So each one of them are being deconstructed and built up to the way it should be done in construction. So you guys have probably seen this before. Paul Teichholz ran this analysis, 400 industries in the United States they look at. Construction is the only one to have negative productivity loss. 1999, 2006, 2011, he ran the same analysis all 3 times. They got the same results. McKinsey just came out with the same result. They looked from 1994 to 2015. It's stagnant growth. And you think about, well, maybe it's very similar to other industries. Manufacturing's been twice as much. So when you think about the complexity of construction, you think about the complexity of manufacturing in cars, shouldn't be any different. So we're doing something wrong. We are building a knowledge transfer. And the way you think about this is you think about all the different people that get involved in safety on a job site. Who has the right information on what the correct ways to do things are? You have architects, engineers, you have safety consultants that have a wealth of knowledge. You have insurance companies that give us good information, project managers, facility managers, but contractors, big and small. They come and they give us all the best practices and we put it into an app. And that's how we're doing safety. So when you think about what we're doing now, we've been live. We had a soft release on September 1st. This is all the data points now we've aggregated over time. So we get best practices on here are the best practice forms you should use. Near miss, confined space, accident reporting, utility hit. 70 different forms now people are giving us and we're putting directly in the apps people can use. Questions. We had 150 categories now. Before you start to do a concrete pour, you're placing a joist on a steel on a building. Anything you're doing is now 150 categories and you go into 6,000 questions of very prescriptive things to look for. So here is a very simple screen, and why I'm showing you this simple screen is because it needs to be simple. We want everyone on the job site, not the CEO, not the safety director who comes around once a week. The guys in the field have big fingers, sausage fingers we call them. Do this, right? It's got to be simple. It's very intuitive for 2 reasons. We're a small company. We can't afford to train everyone. It's got to be easy to use out of the box. So here is a question screen, and this is about to be released. Basically, you go through a category. For example, you're pouring concrete. You see a list of the questions. You expand the category to say you're having an issue. You set infinite number of pictures about the issue. You're saying your corrective actions on the issue. You have notes on the issue. You're tracking it to resolving the issue. Okay? Very important that you want to be able to create these issues and, more importantly, solve the issues. So when you think about Toolbox Talks, this by itself is the one that brings most companies to buy it. The typical cost of a Toolbox Talk is $105 on paper per company, per project. Merely by having a way to change the way we're doing Toolbox Talks, by having people sign their phones in the field, changes a lot about the dynamics of the economics of it. So the way we set these up, and we talked about that big graph before, is that we had about 70 different Toolbox Talks. Now everyone's given their best Toolbox Talks, and we put them into a way that you're engaging your crew. Why is it important? What are the death rates? Why are we talking about this today? And then you're having open-ended questions with your crew so they're not falling asleep on you. And when you're done, you're tracking everyone's signature. And this is what a report looks like. That's pretty boring. So we do task hazard analysis, very similar to what Boeing's doing. You take through and you take a look at your scope of work, and then you define your tasks. And each one of these open up to define what's your strategy, what's your defenses in place, how you're going to get around it before you start the work, preactive. You also have a bunch of questions. You can't read these, but these are questions, follow-up questions. These are all tailored by you. So the THA, the task hazard analysis, you define these questions as a company. You open these up and you have particular things about equipment needed, things like that you want your people to know. Here's a couple screens we have. We have safety news of the day, safety topic of the day. We typically find someone who died in the last 28, 48 hours, something like that. There's a lot of deaths. You guys have seen them all around here, tons of deaths. We basically say, here's a person who died, send it off to someone. We all know we're mortal. This is a serious business we're in. Usually I call it scaring the shit out of you in the morning as you're drinking your coffee, right? Find your nearest clinic. It tells you exactly where you are. Construction changes a lot. So if you're at a job site, you can click this and you can find out where all your hospitals are around you. You can plan with your crew. Where am I going to go if there's an emergency? How do I get there? And then with Toolbox Talks once more. So here is equipment safety as well. So you think about people, it's also about equipment. We're going to have 25 different manufacturers, every possible equipment you can possibly imagine, asking the right questions about, is there fluids in place? Have you done the right startup procedures? Each one of these goes into thousands of questions about the manufacturing and each type of equipment. Lots of metrics, everything you do. So you have one thing in the field to do it, another thing in the office to make sure you're actually doing it. We have the Accident Prevention Index, which actually tells you and predicts when you're going to have the accident. It's behavioral-based safety, right? By looking at the observations. Again, it's okay to have bad observations. You want to have good observations as well. You can start to predict as this starts to come down. You need more oversight. You need some more toolbox talks, direct intervention. Okay, it helps you try to focus your energy on when you need your safety on what projects. All sorts of cool metrics. We can show you later on. Lessons learned. So inherent to everything that we're building, all these 30 friction points, is the ability to have lessons learned. It goes back to what Paul Teichhold said, right? We have all these problems. We're stagnating in terms of how we're getting better. Let's learn from our mistakes. Let's go in, and Steve Donis, who's here, I used to run Chicago Public Schools, we had this set up on massive screens at CPS. After every project we did, and we had 250 projects a year, I said, what did we do wrong on this project? Well, we had design error. We had a process change. We had all these things, and we tracked them as a lessons learned. And then in the off season, all the guys that weren't busy came back, and we fixed the problems to make sure we didn't do it again. Okay, this is very important. Everything we're building is lessons learned. This is our second application we're building. It's called CCS Connect. Gives you the ability to turn everyone's phone into walkie-talkie. Okay, so it's big for construction. Basically, you have everyone's picture on the first page. You can either pick either people you want to speak to, and you can talk to up to 500 people at once, or you can set them up in project groups, right? So if you're on a project site and you have 15 different subs on a contract, you push one button, and within 2 seconds, you're talking to 500 people saying, I got a crane in the way, I have a safety stand down, all these things that you need makes it completely different. You're literally pushing it, you're clicking it, very easy, and then everything you say in the job site gets recorded. So you can go back and you can play it again. You can even tell them where you are on the job site immediately so they can find you, okay? Really cool, really sexy thing we're building. It's about to be released next week. And then all these custom forms. So all these people bring to us all their forms and say, I've got a best practice on electrical safety or lockout, tagout. We actually create it for them in their office. It takes about 15 minutes. It's available on their mobile device within 15 minutes. But the important thing is we won't create forms for just one company. If BEK says, you know what, I'll buy your product, but I only want this form just for me, we won't do it. We'll only do it if you allow it to be used by everybody in the industry. That's this knowledge transfer. Okay, it's a difference. We can't stagnate on how we're getting better. Everyone's got to share. Analytics, you guys are bored with that now. So we also have a file cabinet. So the file cabinet's getting bigger. Again, all this knowledge transfer. So anything between, client safety plans like you were talking about, site orientation plans, certifications, corporate safety plans, all these are put on a back-end website, and it's available on people's phones. So it's not a 3-ring binder. You're not making changes to your safety plan, FedExing them out to everyone in the field, making 3-hole punches, and then getting stuck in the back of a pickup truck. It's available on their phone in real time. They're seeing the changes. This idea of partnership is very important, okay? So $30 to $45 billion is wasted every year in construction due to double and triple entry. GC's got a system, subs have a system. We are actually creating the ability to create a partnership. What that means is that as BEK is a lead on this, they send a partnership request to all their subs and say, we want to partner with you on this project. They buy our product, and then they share information on the product. Okay, that's completely different than the way we're looking at it now. The partnership is very important. You share analytics, you share forms, you do accident reporting, you can see each other's assessments, you can use in RFPs, wealth of information. This is something that's really going to differentiate ours from everyone else, is the ability of a partnership within construction. We're also creating a new way to visualize your data. So for example, you can go over here and choose all your projects, some of your projects, find out where your safety accidents are. You can blow this up in the United States. You might be able to say, show me all the observations I'm making on my job site. And then you can find out no one's doing any observations over here. So a data visualization is very important to how you actually manage your safety on the job site. This is a simple thing. Everyone's got to be in safety. We're creating these new releases every one month or 3 weeks. Everyone's got to buy it, right? So we're going to change this price. We just make sure that all the small guys can afford it, and this is the price we found. So schedules the next one coming out, and that's coming out in 2 weeks. Connect and safety, and we're going to release one every 2 months, essentially as a risk management solving these friction points.